This is where the mountains really play a part. It's time really to go racing. Yesterday, stage 2 was the second day, of course, for the sprinters. Really, it was to come through in the end after the breakaway finally faded. A real chase, invigorated, I think, partially by the push of the likes of Team Ineos, who were just staying safe, it seemed. In the end, well, it was a mix and match as far as our breakaway was concerned. Finally, they're all wound in. Roads were rough. Indeed, the finish was rather quick indeed. Paul Braley, who disappointed on the opening day by going too early to avoid a crash, this time lots of bumps done for the likes of Indiana, who came home disappointing in the race. Qatar stays in the race lead. How much longer going into a mountainous day? It surely must put frighteners on everybody, particularly quick. Ryan Coquard then is in control of the race, but by a margin of just 2 seconds. You look down this list, and it is, of course, very, very slim thickness as far as gaps are concerned. Today, find the gaps if you can between the mountains. 3 enormous tests. Any single one of them can characterise a very tough day. 3 together. It's the Porte de Bay, the Dépêche, and indeed our finish today. All the all of those climbs really punishing today. Today, thankfully, yes, has stayed. So the temperatures that we had on the opening day of 40 Celsius thankfully seem to be behind us at the moment, and this is a very verdant land in the southwest of France where we play this game called formerly the Route du Sud, these days the Route de l'Occitanie. At some nervous times, I think it's fair to say, as everyone just prepared to get ourselves underway. Ryan Coquard and indeed the rest of these jerseys likely to change hands on this day, because some very young men, very, very capable riders as well. Within that group, you of course include Egan Bernal, principal it seems for Team Ineos. Still with Chris Froome on hand and testing his legs on the toughest of days. The likes of Pavel Sivakov as well, maybe doing some damage. When you looked at the beginning of this race and you saw Romain Bardet, Tony Gamelin, Pierre Latour, and indeed the likes of Pern Steiner, and indeed Warren Barguil, Richie Porte, Kenny Ellison, Bauke Mollema, Miguel Angel Lopez, you know that these guys are capable of doing some damage on terrain such as this. Peyre-Sud then, and indeed our grand finale, and a brave breakaway we had at the beginning of the day. This with 29 kilometres remaining, so the two big tests have already been dealt with, and 1 minute and 35 only. So they've come over the bay, the Peyre-Sud, and it's about the run for home. 163.5 kilometres in total today, and indeed already the legs must be sapped. I have to say that our breakaway have coped remarkably well. Yet again, Brian, we find Lilian Carmian up towards the pointy end, but not for long, you feel?
Yeah, he was in the break in the first stage, tried to go late in the day yesterday and got himself in the breakaway of 8 riders that went away right from the start. We've lost a few of those riders, but still get 5 riders in the lead. As normal, Team Ineos have come to the front. They've been at the front pretty much most of this race, especially in the flat stages, keeping their leaders out of trouble. So they've taken control of this race. They are the favourites, Egan Bernal especially. So we'll wait and see what develops. But Team Ineos are in control today. They haven't given this breakaway too much leeway. I think the maximum they got today was 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, well, I guess giving the likes of Carmijan a lot of respect. Georges Zinnemann as well, Harold Tejeda won the Tour de l'Avenir last year, Julien Bernard as well, one of the stalwarts of Trek Segafredo. He and Marker, I think, probably for Richie Porte, of course, and Bauke Mollema. That a team that still trying to decide the pecking order as we run towards the Tour de France. Still the Dauphiné to put some power back in the legs, but with the likes of Barguil, Bardet, Pinot, very much a French affair, you might have thought. Well, Francis Leger tucked in and ready to show their hand. But Team Ineos looks so strong. Now, it's going to be a big whittling down process on this final climb, quite obviously, Brian. Ineos setting the pace today, and indeed have thinned the field down good and proper for the approach here. I imagine there's going to be quite a few riders in arrears by a handsome margin by the end of the day. The question is, though, who is going to come out on top within Team Sky? Chris Froome surely has to be nervous. Sivakov will want to display, and Egan Bernal with special permission to leave his home in lockdown back in Colombia to be at this race. Never starts a day or a stage race giving half measures. I expect the young man from Colombia, defending Tour de France champion, to want to nail his flag to the mast, Brian. There's a lot to be decided in Team Sky.
Yeah.
Ineos, I beg your pardon.
yeah. Team Ineos are here with one thing, and that's to win this race. And so far, Egan Bernal, last year's Tour de France winner, has showed at the front. He's been up there in the first couple of stages, keeping out of trouble, even finishing in the top 10. So I would think that Egan Bernal is their chosen rider today. But it will be interesting to see how Sivakov and Chris Froome rides. And because, at the end of the day, Chris Froome, there's nothing guaranteed about getting Tour de France selection, but just look behind Carlton. You've got, the other teams in this race, the French teams with Groupama. They had a rider in the breakaway today of Ladagnus. He's been dropped, but Thibaut Pinot rode so well in the Tour until he got sick last year. Romain Bardet from AG2R. They've got Consefoy in the break as well, so they've gone out there with a plan. Look, this is not going to be easy for Team Ineos, although they have got a star-studded team coming into this 4-day race. But when you consider, there's other elements in here. Warren Barguil is looking good, but Trek Segafredo, they've got Mollema and Richie Porte, and let's see how they go, because they've gone well, and I think there's a bit of pressure on that kind of duo to try and kind of deliver something even before the Tour de France. And they've got Julien Bernard up the road, and he's a rider that's kind of pushing hard at the front. So there's a few teams going out with the tactics, try and get a rider in the breakaway. They've managed to do that, forcing a bit of pressure on the leaders to deliver today.
Well, Bassage winner, Benoit Cosnefroy, just 24 years of age from AG Tour Mondial, looks to be struggling within this group. Looks like 4 may well indeed depart from this quintet and leave him isolated by it. He hasn't taken a turn for quite a while. Meanwhile, Trek Segafredo Julien Bernard comes and rolls to the back, just slotting in front of him. He doesn't want to take a turn here, Cosnefroy. Maybe it's just because he's able to use an excuse and saying, well, I'm not going for the win today. I'm working for Bardet or Galopin or Pierre Latour. Talking about Latour, by the way, Pierre Latour, I'm referring to. A man who's always had to play second fiddle to Plenty. I'm just wondering whether he indeed will have equal billing to Bardet. So there's a lot to be sorted out here, not least the pecking order between Chris Froome and Egan Bernal. Geraint Thomas is absent from the race, but what a strong team they have. And with Pavel Sivakov, the young 23-year-old, then do not discount him either on this kind of test. Chris Froome at 35 years of age, heading off to Israel Cycling Academy and beyond at the end of this season, but wants to book himself a place on the Tour de France. He's got a difficult balancing act. He doesn't want to seem to be attacking Egan Bernal, but equally wants to put himself forward. So I think they'll probably get a free hand today. Let us see how they roll. I can't imagine Froome would want to sacrifice himself unless it's been part of the battle plan and well discussed, because he needs to test himself. Not only here, but on the Dauphiné, I am sure, as well. Chris Froome will want to go well, but then again, his teammates will too. Gosh, an awful lot to sort out and for you to think about. There are other teams as well with more than one card to play. Groupama France with Thibaut Pinot, but they've also got Madouas who can climb well, and particularly Sebastian Reichenbach, the Swiss champion, with the big white cross upon his breastbone. So let's see how they go. Just rolling through here, doing a nice job of it as well. That's Zimmerman for CCC. Coming through, that's Carmajan, the aforementioned. In the break again, can't help himself. Sucker for punishment. Harold Tejeda is the rider from Astana's Trek's Julien Bernard comes through right now. It's been busy, certainly for this breakaway. And when you look at the terrain, Brian, an absolute frightener today. I'm amazed they look so fresh.
Yeah, 163.5 kilometre stage. 3 first category climbs, finishing on a first category climb, and that's 10.9 kilometres in length. It averages 7.2, but there are bits in that climb at the end where it's 17%. So still at the front is Team Ineos, the race leader, Brian Coulthard, is just sitting behind him. Then you've got Groupama, Français de Jeu. Then we have the other French team, and that's AG2R behind Trek Segafredo. So Warren Barguil, the French champion, and then we've got Astana with Miguel Angel Lopez. So we'll wait and see how Miguel Angel Lopez goes today, because he's been fairly quiet during this race. But all the teams are kind of lined up in kind of team format. These riders, I don't think, will go much far into this into this climb because of the difficulty and the pace that I think Ineos will want to set.
Yeah, it's well, we're on the approaches right now. Still got a little way to go. It's kind of rolling terrain before we actually get to the test itself, the Col de Bered. At its maximum, it's about 12%, and that's midway through the climb, so it's almost the cruelest part of it. It's a tough task to take on a day such as this and deliver the win. Then again, some of the superstars who are in the wake of this breakaway for the time being, by a margin of about 50 seconds, they're kind of looking over their shoulders at the moment, and we're sort of heading off to the foothills of the Col de Bered. Well, depends where you look. It's a kind of a new incline for us, and I'm inclined to think that it's going to be something of a test for some of these boys as well. How much scoping of the course they've done is anybody's guess. Cars coming up. We'll wait to see if they get stripped out, which will tell you that the gap is starting to tumble. For the time being, those servicing the breakaway are still on their tail, so must be more than a minute for now, but I think they're doomed, Brian.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's riders from certain teams in this breakaway originally were put in there for their team leaders, maybe to try and kind of help out, maybe to put pressure on Team Ineos, and I think they have put a little bit of pressure on. They've forced Team Ineos to try and control this race, and they have controlled it. It was a big stage for them. You know, they have the big favourite. I don't think anybody can see past Egan Bernal in this type of finish. I think the interesting thing is, where is Chris Froome at this moment? Sivakov, he had a tremendous year last year. Has he matured into this team? How are they going to ride? And, you know, we've already seen this man here, Chris Froome, actually at the front in other stages, trying to help Egan Bernal and trying to be the teammate. So it'll be interesting to see how they go and who's really going to go up against Team Sky. We see Astana, they've been very quiet during this race, but they have got a very, very good team here. They've got Miguel Angel Lopez, they've got Omar Fraile, Marhavi Kudus, Vlasov, Luis Leon Sanchez. They've got a rider in the break of Tahira. It's going to be a really interesting climb to see who's got the form, because I think we said it all along when we Strada Bianchi and, you know, various races starting, and you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what the form of the other riders are. You know what your team's form is, you know what your form is, but you don't know how every other rider, throwing in the tactics and everything else. It's going to be an interesting climb, because we're now going into this climb with some of the favourites of this year's Tour de France not knowing what their form is. So that's what the interesting factor is for me.
I think there may well be some surprises here today, not least amongst your favourites, but some of the guys, you mentioned the likes of Alexander Vlasov within that team. Luis Leon Sanchez always does a lot of driving work to get to the fore, but youthful exuberance will out, and indeed, you know, you have those days where you get the reveal. Somebody's going to go very well today. We should wait and see. And I've got a feeling as well that, you know, we're going to find out an awful lot about pecking orders. Richie Porte, cast your mind back to 2016 and 2017. Just indomitable. And then you've got others. Big disappointment last year, of course, on the Tour de France for Thibaut Pinot in Groupama Francis Séjour with his knee problem that, quite frankly, brought a tear to the eye of Brian Smith. And that's usually trying to get milk from a stone. But yes, he got very emotional about it, and so did the rest of us as well, because such a great rider, and then it just falling to pieces for him. But he was in a class of his own in the Pyrenees, don't forget, the Tour last year, and he even gave Bernal a real kicking at the Prat d'Albi. Do you remember that? Beautiful riding it was. And so, in my heart, I'd like to see Pinot have a proper dig today. And he garnered a lot of sympathy from us, didn't he, Brian? I'd love to see him back. That's what I'm trying to say.
Do you know what? I'd love to see how it would have gone last year with Thibaut Pinot still in the race. Yeah. That's the thing for me. I think he was in the form of his life when when we saw him winning up the Tourmalet, and other riders were faltering at that moment. That was a very difficult period, and then afterwards he just got sick, and that's the disappointing factor for me. But can he get back there in this very difficult year? Because let's be honest, when you go away from last year and then start concentrating in July next year, and you come into the season and then you have to readjust the season, it's not easy to do mentally. It's not easy to do, and we know that there's a few riders that aren't kind of mentally strong like that. So this is going to really test Pino, and a good performance on this climb today will give him confidence. In fact, it's a must for all the GC contenders we're talking about.
Agreed.
To get a performance today to show that confidence to move forward.
Yeah, and book your place really in the forefront of the thoughts of your team director. Let's talk about Chris Froome, 35 years of age now, and people say you get asked constantly about your thoughts. As a commentator that's covered a lot of racing, and indeed have kind of been there along with Chris Froome throughout his illustrious career, and people say, is it all over? And I certainly hope not. And I wouldn't say it was all over, but can he win the Tour again this year? To which the answer is, I don't know. But equally, the answer would be, for just about anybody else, would probably be no. And that don't know is a big question mark that hangs over Chris Froome, because it was such an enormous accident that he had. I think there are very few riders, or indeed sportsmen on the planet, who could have come back from something like that. Chris Froome appears to have come back. How good he is, I guess today is the first window we'll have into answering that question, Brian.
Yeah, I think there's two questions in that. The main question is, can Chris Froome win another Tour de France? And I think for me that's a yes. I do believe he can win a fifth Tour de France. Can he win the Tour de France with Bernal and Thomas, especially Bernal on his team? I don't think so. And I think that's the big reason why he's decided to change teams, and he's gone to the Israel team, so that, Startup Nation, so that he can build a team and he can come back to the Tour de France. Look, you never know what's going to happen in the Tour de France this year. We've seen it over the last few years. You remember that Geraint Thomas said he wants to be leader, he wants to be joint leader, and Chris Froome crashed, lost about a minute and a half. Geraint Thomas put himself in the leader's jersey, and went on to win that Tour. So you never know what's going to happen, especially in the first week of the Tour de France. And it's going to be extra nervy this year, and if anything happens to Bernal, then we'll see. But you've got Thomas there as well.
Making the turn where the road just started to pick up right now, and this is what we're dealing with, the Col de Bered. And as you can see, it is a nasty one now. Now, there is a turn or two at 17%. That's a maximum, but it's averaged out at 13. But look where it comes, slam in the middle of this climb. Not nice. And Francis Lejeune, Thibaut Pinot clearly has called for action here. And let's just see who can stay on the coattails. Fausto Masnada, by the way, is being teed up by CCC, a rider who had his breakthrough in 2019. You may remember with that Giro stage win. He's gone extremely well as well in the Haute Var. He's a man who is one of those that could reveal himself today. Let's see, shall we?
Yeah, let's look forward to that. They had one rider in the breakaway, George Zimmerman. So there he is there. He's still there, still up the road. But Julien Bernard from Trek Segafredo's pushed on at the bottom of this climb. It's not easy. They've already done two first category climbs, but they're really going at this one now.
Thank you and good night for Brian Coquard. He'll spin up here and honour the jersey, but it's bye-bye from me, he said. His demeanour has changed entirely. He's quite a friendly chap, it seems, after hiding that light under a bushel. French champion Warren Barguil from Arkea Samsic, no teammates around him, is going for it. Just coming up around the outside. Likewise, Cajaroral are getting involved here as well, but Thibaut Pinot is tucked in. There is Chris Froome just out of the saddle once again to bridge up to Castro Viejo. And you're going to have a big price to pay for those who have extended the energy throughout the day. And I think Julien Bernard, last man standing from the breakaway, has a look behind. It's been a credible performance by the 28-year-old. He's only ever ridden for Trek professionally. And so, yeah, he's a He's a man who's on a personal mission, I think, just to extend that. He's had a contract extension for a couple more years as well. So he's going nowhere. That's his team for life, it seems. You do get that, Brian. Riders who chop and change. Big change for Chris Froome. Could he get some spare change out of today, though?
Well, early on his career had a couple of teams, and then he came to Team Sky, which became Team Ineos, and he's been at home there. It's going to be a bit of a change for him, but further back the climb, you can see that Brian Coquard, the race leader, he's going to lose that today, but he's thinking about tomorrow. Other sprinters would have probably just get dropped in the previous climb, but Brian Coquard set his sights, just getting to the bottom of this climb and just going up this as easy as possible, because he wants to save all his energy for the potential sprint tomorrow.
This kilometre that they're on at the moment, hovering around 9.5%. And you can see when the camera looks back, just the angle of the crowd standing, their attitude towards the terrain. It does pitch up this. It's kind of flattened out by the camera, but believe me, this is tough, and you can see it from the pace of the riders. You've got to pace yourself throughout this. It's hard to set a rhythm, though. It's not like the Père-Issoud or even the Port de Bay. It has one respite step within that, of course. But they're able to tempo up the Père-Issoud. This is different, Brian. It's very twisty, technical as well. And you get that flat section, which almost lulls you into a false sense of security after about 3 or 4 kilometres into this run, and then all of a sudden, slam! You're hitting those peaks and inclines, which take you up to 17%, as you said.
Well, as you've already mentioned, Carlton, that the first part of this climb is pretty brutal, of just under 10%. And then it levels a little bit, where you get between 5 and 6, and then you get that flattens out to about 3 to 4%. So straight away you can see there's a group about almost 40 riders, and it's Castroviejo, Theo Geoghegan Hart setting the pace at the front of the main group. Chris Froome is also there, and Bernal. So it's already whittled down. Team Ineos have been riding at the front pretty much all day, so they've lost quite a few riders. So there will be a bit of riding here, I would suspect, from Chris Froome, who's just sitting to the right of Castroviejo, who's on the front.
Let's see, Astana just picking it up and riding into that void. I think Miguel Angel Lopez is still there, and indeed Vlasov as well. In fact, I'm wondering if it is Lopez. We'll wait and see in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, this is the end of our break for Julien Bernard. And yes, there are these sort of pesky little ramps that we were telling you about, and it looks like he's driven nicely into it as well. Allows himself some respite, just as the terrain goes a little bit kinder, allowing you to put something back in the legs. A lot of riders don't like this, Brian. They prefer to have just a constant incline all the way. It doesn't allow you to settle into the task, does it?
Yeah, most of the best climbers actually prefer this, different pitches and things like that, because it makes it harder for a lot of riders to get into that rhythm. So if you're not a kind of pure climber, this is not that good. When it kind of pitches up hard, pitches up hard, it upsets the rhythm. So a lot of these riders, especially the bigger the riders, they want to set themselves into some sort of rhythm, but for the small diminutive climbers, they love it when it changes tempo, changes gradient, changes pace. They love all that.
Well, there's nobody who likes it tougher than Chris Froome, and at the moment just tucked in, as you can see. He's riding man 2 at the moment. Still a quartet of Ineos riders, including Bernal and Zibikov, active. Just look at the pace. Ineos are determined to put plenty to the sword. It's interesting, isn't it, Brian? All that tempoing, riding to the numbers, and then just letting others burn themselves out by having a go. It's become more dramatic for Team Ineos in their second incarnation. In the Sky Days, they used to mark everyone out. But since changing to Ineos, I don't know whether it's had an impact. They've kind of often taken the bull by the horns and just decided to punish everyone, and we're seeing that today.
Yeah, we certainly are, and it's what we've seen them do a lot in the past, and why change a good thing? So they're deciding to take it on, and also they've been riding pretty much all the stage at the front of the peloton, and teams sitting second, third, fourth, and if you're not feeling too great, then you're going to look up and see Team Ineos at the front, and it isn't good for confidence. We talk about this all the time, Carlton. Cycling is all about how confident, how you feel, and if you're in a low slope, starting to feel it a little bit, and you look up, you can't see the faces. You've got to remember that the riders behind cannot see the faces of the riders in front. They think at that sitting back there that, oh wow, they're actually killing me. But look at Castroviejo's face. He is trying hard, and if those riders behind could see that, they would give them some sort of hope. But at the moment, they've got 4 riders from Ineos, and for the riders sitting in the group behind, they think they're ripping their legs off.
Well, it certainly feels like this. This is wild boar country, by the way. Cue the song. But yes, thankfully the hunters have abated. I don't think it's the season, is it, at the moment? It's all they're rearing the young, which one day sadly will probably end up on your plate. Meanwhile, it is Gionnet, nearest to us from Saint-Michel, over 93. It was he that is their favoured son. Free butter biscuits, that's why he signed up. Meanwhile, these guys, will they have their cake and eat it? I am certain that Team Ineos are going to thrive beautifully here, but look who's marking them out. And this bodes well for France. They've kind of designed the Tour de France course this year very much with French riders in mind. Pinot and Alaphilippe went so deep into the race last year. I think they have high hopes for this year, and the course is kind of designed to suit them. Say it quietly, but it's true. So let's wait and see, shall we? Who's hiding, Brian? That's what we want to know. Who's keeping a light under a bushel on this day, just for now?
Well, Bernal's the one that's hiding at the moment. He's a little bit further back from his teammates at the front of the peloton. He's deciding to sit in the middle of this group. Whether he prefers to do that, we do not know, but normally we see him up towards the front. But he's got 4 teammates on the front in this small group of just over 30-35 riders. You can see some of the riders kind of hanging on at the back, but it's just a tempo that no one's going to attack. We could possibly see the attacks, and just as I say that, Bernal has come up to the front to join his teammates. We had 4, now we get 5, and I was just about to say that, why is he sitting in the middle of the group? Because he should be up with his teammates, and he's done that.
Well, he has. I'm actually wondering whether he got a bit of cheeky sustenance back there somewhere along the line. Certainly disappeared from view with the quartet there. I was just starting to worry a little bit, but hence the question about hiding your light under a bushel. He's right back and looks reasonably calm, I have to say. So indeed do the rest of the Ineos team. At the moment, there's a few grimaces around, but everyone's suffering. It's really thinned down, Brian. What have we got, about 50 riders here?
Yeah, I think even less than that, but it's still Castroviejo at the front. Then we got Chris Froome. Is he going to take over as soon as Castroviejo's done his job? Then we get Theo Gegenhardt. And then we got the Russian Sivakov just in front of Egan Bernal. So 5 riders for Team Ineos. One by one, they're starting to drift off the back of this group.
As Amendi of Euskottel just going backwards, few others as well, just finding themselves. Castroviejo, super job by him. Really dug very, very deep, sacrificed himself for the team on the radio right now. Not quite sure what that is, probably just dialing up something cool and quenching. Meanwhile, whose thirst is going to be satiated here? It's Pinot directly on the back wheel of the line of Ineos riders. But now there at the rear, Chris Froome taking up the head right now with those rather ungainly setting he has on the cleats to his pedals. The attachment he always looks like he's wearing Alibaba shoes to me. Sort of turned up at the end. Well, today's course turns up at the end as well, and Chris Froome should be equal to this kind of incline, but he's on duty early here, Brian, to be the protected rider. Is he playing a team game here?
Yeah, I think he has. They've all had the opportunity to say where they are and what they're comfortable with, and Chris Froome has decided, like the other day, that to ride a little bit on the front. He's riding now, and he's come back from quite serious injuries, and he felt he probably isn't quite there. He needs maybe a few more races, and he's building up towards the Tour de France, which is only a few weeks away. But Chris has decided that it's best that Team Ineos win this race, and with his help they can. and they're putting everything into one basket, and that basket is Egan Bernal. When he attacks, it'll be interesting to see who goes with him or who tries to go with him, because we still have some quality riders behind. Thibaut Pinot, Romain Bardet, you can see their team's just behind. You've got Miguel Angel Lopez's team of Astana just behind that. So it's going to be an interesting one. I cannot see anybody attacking while Chris Froome is setting this tempo.
What a super domestique he is. And in fact, we're coming to the steepest part of the course right now. Looking at the rear of the peloton, rather said unkindly the rear of the race. It's not. That's Amiral for Groupama Francis, who pushed into this incline on behalf of Thibaut Pinot. In the end, he was holding on to Pinot's coattails. Thibaut Pinot, when he's in the mood, just can't help it. He outrides and rides down his teammates. And I think he's in that kind of mood at the moment. Chris Froome doing a fantastic job, and we're on this really testy incline right now. Not going to be Pierre Latour's day today. If he wants equal billing when we get to the Tour de France with Romain Bardet, he's going to have to pull something more than this out of the bag. Yeah, he looked sprightly yesterday, and that confused me a little bit. Latour, Michael Charel outriding him at the moment, his teammate here, wearing unlucky 13 for AG Tour Le Mondial within this group. And still our friend from the Biscuits, Adrien Guillonnet, staying in touch, doing a great job for Saint-Michel over 93. Doing a fantastic job as well is Chris Froome. Well, if he's buying favours, he's got an awful lot here. 5 kilometres to go, so the steepest part of the climb is announcing itself to us, Brian.
Well, how hard is Chris Froome going at the moment? And the tail of the peloton shows you that. One by one, we're going out the back earlier on, but now it's 2s and 3s, and the large groups, even in front of these two Caja Rural riders, is a group about 6-7 being distant. So this is a really fast pace that Chris is going up this climb at, and the question is, how long can he go at this pace? What's his form like? And who can actually stay with the flying group here with Chris Froome leading the way?
Fantastic. Well, what a sight. Tego Egenhart still tucked in and waiting to do his job. At the back of this quartet from Ineos, you can see Bernal. That is Chris Froome done. Shakes their head. Now, this is part of the design. This, I think you can put that down as a success. He went very, very deep into that climb, has sacrificed himself quite clearly as part of the team here. And it is Zivakov with Bernal and Theo Gegenhardt that find themselves at the front. Nice trio, but tucked in behind them is Thibaut Pinot. Is he in mugging mood, Brian?
Well, we'll have to wait and see in that, but did you notice the size of the group now? Because it was about over 30 riders when Chris Froome went to the front. Only 13 riders left at the front of this race now because of this man's effort over the last couple of kilometres.
Well, chapeau to Chris Froome. That real team effort that was. I think if he produces something like that on behalf of a teammate, I think he is guaranteed to be seen to be towing the line and will have that ticket to the Tour de France. Romain Bardet tucked in on the back wheel with the brown shoulders here, tucked in the back wheel of Thibaut Pinot, and indeed they are just starting to stamp it just a little bit. What about Trek Segafredo, Bauke Mollema and Richie Porte are their chosen sons for today, and they're trying to mix it up, Brian, but it's a hard task when Ineos are in this kind of form.
Yeah, well, this is the hardest part now we're on. This is where it goes up to 17% now, and an ex-teammate of a lot of the riders at the front, Kenny Ellison, came to the front there for Trek Segafredo. He did a bit of a turn, but he's now drifted back. They have got Richie Porte still in this group, looking a little bit further behind. Mollema just kind of hanging on the back. Richie Porte actually looks okay, but it's Theo Gegenhardt is taking up the reins at the front.
Pernsteiner is there as well for Bahrain McLaren in the bright orange. You can see as well the Swiss champion Reichenbach is there. Gosh, there are riders all over this mountain right now. It's not a pleasant thing. That's Villamo's accomplished climber as well, just going backwards. Plenty of others as we catch up to the front group right now with this camera camera bike, and indeed this is also starting to detonate, and indeed Richie Porte looks like he's starting to struggle likewise as well. Still rolling with it, mind you. Apologies to him, but look down this group, why don't you? Alexander Vlasov with the stripes across his back there, national champion from Astana, and there just Russia. In front of him from Russia, yes, is Miguel Angel Lopez, and Lopez is guiding Vlasov at the moment, the youngster. Well, there you are, just tempoing is Sebastian Reichenbach, the Swiss champion, and the French champion Warren Barguil. Great to see Barguil keeping up with his company. He's kind of variable in terms of his form, Barguil, but he's showing some great colours today, and not least, of course, the French tricolore, owned by Pinot, who just starts to bob into that position. Others are really struggling, and I'm afraid that the struggles will go on due to the tempo that's being set out front. Theo Gegenhardt sacrificing himself, and just tucked in for good measure is Sivakov and Bernal. That's Pinot and Bardet. There's Porte. Oh my goodness, what a selection. This would grace any Grand Tour. What a race it's turning out to be, Brian.
It is, and nobody's comfortable. And look at Miguel Angel Lopez. He's been passed by Vlasov, the Russian champion. Even Romain Bardet moves out now. This is a hard pace set by Theo Gegenhardt. Look at the damage he's done now.
Ha! And it goes on, and there's going to be an awful lot more hurt. I wish they'd take it, that graphic saying rear of the race. It's of a very elite and illustrious group of riders. What a day. Just look at it. The camera here, which usually flattens out the road, now indeed just showing exactly what they're dealing with. Kenny Elissonde just heading backwards here. Likewise, a few others. That was Valls having done his duty. Unzipped and ready for traction or action. We'll wait and see. Is Warren Barguil here? Looks like he is suffering. It's a coolish day as well, but he has that familiar unzipped jersey about him. And they take this turn, and they will take on this test. It's getting very selective, and Pinot just decides to try and drive his way through. There's a roadblock ahead of him, and it's red and black of Ineos. Goodness me, well, some going into the red and some going into the black. Very much a deficit, you can see. Goodness me. They're dispatching bottles all over the place, and indeed their reserves of energy as well. Another outrunner here. Don't trip over your own bag, my friend. Steps into the road, and that can make a nuisance of just about anybody. And this looks like it's going to be an Ineos day. Theo Gegenhardt just pulls to the side, and Sivakov it is that picks it up. Wonderful stuff. Big scream back to our friend with his rucksack that he keeps tripping over, or doesn't. And there is Romain Bardet. Gutsy performer, Bardet, but blows hot and cold. And I think today the chill that's being imposed by the ice-cool men up ahead, and there goes Pinot as well. Not going to be staying on, is he? And picks it back up and just tries to drive into it, trying to pick up the Russian champion Vlasov, who's managing to stay up here and deliver something. He's a rangy rider, isn't he, Pavel Sivakov, for Team Ineos. Looks too big to be doing this sort of thing, but he offers up a perfect shield for Egan Bernal, who's obviously the chosen son today, Brian.
Well, he matured last year, and he showed what he could do. But did you notice that about 500-600 metres ago, Bernal actually looked around. He wanted to see who was still left. He dropped behind Thibaut Pinot. He asked for a little bit more from Theo Gegenhardt. He did his last turn, swung over. Sivakov took it up, and all the time Bernal, he looked so comfortable. Vlasov is riding out of his skin in third place, the Russian champion. Pinot still kind of hanging in there. This is going to be great confidence for him, but others have disappeared. Richie Porte, I don't think is that far away. He was riding well, but I think one of the disappointments for me so far is Miguel Angel Lopez, who seems to be going backwards. Yeah, indeed. I've kind of been looking out for him, but just not happening. I've kind of felt that Vlasov was there to look after him, but in the end, he's going to have to look after himself. There he is, the Russian champion for Astana. Miguel Angel Lopez having a bad day. I guess when you look at the timing sheets, you probably think that of Chris Froome, but he didn't. He had a great day playing a super domestique role. Meanwhile, you come back to this group of French hopefuls. I think their hopes are going to be dashed. All hopes now for France rest on Thibaut Pinot in this one. Indeed, who else is left to push on into the gap? I guess we'll wait and see. Blanc Oliver.
is riding forward, whereas Richie Porte has struggled today. And you can't say that for this group. Head of the race, Bernal, Sivakov, Vlasov and Pinot. Not quite sure what order they're going to finish in, but having a teammate is a great help. And the way that Ineos have ridden this race, Brian, and particularly today, it's been safety first for the first 2 days, as you might expect. They've been the ones chasing down the breakaways as well. Didn't want anything silly, any silly gaps to open up. It's all been about today, though. The battle plan. So rigorous are they in their planning. They knew exactly what they were up to today. Super domesticating Chris Froome. It's been a pleasure to watch.
It is, and into the last kilometre, it only goes to about 2.3%. So with Thibaut Pinot there, you don't want to risk anything. And if I was Team Ineos now, I think the way Egan Bernal has been set up here, he cannot wait to that last kilometre, and he has to go pretty soon. He needs to test out Vlasov and Pinot, because you really don't want to take Pinot to the finish here. 2 kilometres to go, so I would think that Bernal, if he wants to win the stage, which Team Ineos are setting him up for, he has to go within the next few hundred metres.
He's going to have to, Brian. This is Richie Porte just disengaged. He's listed as first chaser, will be potentially best of the rest. We shall wait and see whether that is indeed the case. He's on the blower. I think this is probably to give free rein to Volker Mollema. We shall wait and see how that. If that's first chasing group, then he's ahead of him. Let's wait and see. It's been a little bit of chop and change. Maybe the graphic was wrong. Thibaut Pinot has stuck it to Bernal in the Pyrenees in the past. And indeed, here we are. We are down to 3 as Pinot gets disengaged, and still Sivakov pushes on, and indeed Vlasov allows himself a look over the shoulder to see who's where. And so Pinot, just as I was saying, he's bullied Bernal in the past in the Pyrenees. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case today. Can they shake off Alexander Vlasov of Astana here? Sivakov is blasting off at the moment, and in his wake is Egan Bernal, who surely has to be good for the victory today. Red hot favourite. You couldn't get a bet on him now, Brian.
Yes, Sivakov has increased the tempo, which has shot Pinot off, and that's all for one reason. Bernal setting himself up to go on the attack here. He wants to try and win the stage, and that's why you can see Sivakov is out the saddle. He's accelerating up because Bernal wants that. He wants to launch, he wants to go for the stage, but I don't think Vlasov can believe what he's actually seeing. He looked around and saw Pinot going. He's got, I'm here alone with 2 of these Ineos riders.
Yep, exactly. Privileged position to be in, and still the pace changes. Now it does ease, by the way. We'll flatten out at the top. It kind of crests that will bring us to the line. Still twisty and windy, but it looks like this race is going to belong to Ineos. No disrespect to Vlasov, who's doing a fantastic job. And there goes Bernal, just round his man, screened by the trees here. And this is the big moment. Well, Vlasov just gets onto the back wheel of Sivakov here, but I don't think he's got the power to go round him. We shall wait and see. But one man, a diminutive figure, yet again, head and shoulders above everybody else. It's Egan Bernal, Tour de France champion, and look at him go, Brian.
Yep, he's absolutely flying, and that was set up. Sivakov put everybody into the reds, and the only person that wasn't in the red was the man at the front here, Egan Bernal. He blasted everybody off the wheel, including this man here, when he was accelerating under the orders of Bernal. Bernard was just comfortable, and bang, he gets onto the easier part now, and looks like Egan Bernal is going to take this stage. But what damage is he going to do to the rest of the potential Tour de France rivals?
That's the point, isn't it? And Brian, this is bragging rights apart from anything else. It's been a difficult period for all people involved in sport, and indeed the world beyond, as everyone knows. The world is troubled by a virus that locked down this man's hometown. He was given special permission to come to this race, and he won't be going home until this season is done, and it may well be one that he dominates, albeit disjointed, but there's nothing disjointed about this performance. Smooth as you like, and all credit to him. And he's fighting all the way to the line, Brian. He wants the biggest gap he can possibly pose. This is about a statement, apart from anything else, of intent. The defending Tour de France champion is going to come home here and take the Route d'Occitanie. I know we've got another stage tomorrow, but basically this is the decider. Kapow! That was outstanding. Well, the familiar voice of Mr. Magnas calling him in. A beautiful sound it is too. Sivakov crosses the line. It's Vlasov with a creditable third place here as well. He'll take an awful lot of credit for that because he had no teammate help at all. Something that was in the gift of this man, our winner, Egan Bernal. Ah, there he is on the blower.
Sorry, man. My pleasure. I was good communication.
Goodness me, even offered an apology there. Let's hear from the man.
Bueno, muy bien, la verdad.
Yeah, very good.
Digamos que hemos trabajado muy duro para esto.
Well, it's obviously an extremely difficult day, but I'm on great form. So is the rest of the team. And we were heading for the victory. We knew that today was the day that we had to do that.
Muy alto, la verdad que
Well, the high ground, I've been doing a lot of altitude work,
en muy buena condición.
and everything's gone perfectly. I'm in terrific condition.
Esa chispa para poder, digamos que hacer una pequeña diferencia, la verdad que
Well, he's talking about the questions that he was asking of himself and the team, and everyone seemed to be happy in their roles, and that bodes well for the run towards the Tour de France. He said, I'm delighted by today's victory,
perfecto y nos merecíamos.
but yeah, the planning was perfect, and so was the delivery. Egan Bernal. Well, I don't know what he's won there in terms of a trophy. It looks like a sandwich plate. He'll enjoy that. He'll also enjoy wearing the leader's jersey. Maybe tomorrow they'll get one that fits him. He is a very, very diminutive figure, but he leads this race by a big margin against some of the favourites. Don't forget Sivakov's a teammate of his. He's not going to do anything silly. Vlasov at 23 seconds. That could be interesting. Thibaut Pinot likewise. But then look at the gaps. Huge they are. Brian Kokar remains in the points jersey and he'll be looking to hold on to or secure that green tomorrow. Super work as well in the King of the Mountains. It changes jersey to Lilian Calmian, who's been busy assembling peaks in the breakaway. And of course Egan Bernal will have to lend the young rider's jersey to somebody else, presumably somebody a bit bigger stature, so it fits. It's been a great day for myself and Brian. Thank you for your company.